This is Jeroen de Wit. I'm a level 3 quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner, trained by the famed Dolores Cannon back in 2006, and merrily regressing people into different lifetimes ever since. And today I want to talk about if past lives are real. Like, are the past lives that people access during their sessions, are they true lived experiences? So I'm from the Netherlands, and Dutch culture is a very cerebral, rational culture. It's one of the least religious nations on the planet, so we don't believe a whole bunch of stuff. So even when I started doing this work in the beginning, I would be sitting next to my clients and they would be telling me about their lifetimes as aliens or in Atlantis or just kind of mundane experiences in different lifetimes. And I would be wondering, like, is this just real or is it all made up? So I was lucky that I had a number of clients that had lifetimes in their sessions, or they accessed lifetimes in their sessions that could be verified. So they were able to come up with information during their session that they didn't know about prior to going into their session. And later on, like Googling it, and then it turned out that they were correct, that the information that they accessed was correct. So I just want to give you these examples because I think it's so super cool. So the most recent one that I experienced with somebody was a woman who came into her session with a question about her father in her current lifetime. She didn't meet her biological dad until she was 19 years of age. So one of the questions that she'd brought into her session to ask of her higher self was to find out if she'd had different lifetimes with this biological dad from her current lifetime. So we do the whole regression. We get to the part where we speak to the higher self, which is something that we do during a QHHT session. And I ask her higher self this question about her dad. And so it tells me that, yes, they have been together in different lifetimes and that they were together during the Renaissance. So I was like, okay, cool. Any more details, please? I want to hear what they were like. Who were they to each other? And so the higher self proceeds to tell me that my client was Michelangelo in that lifetime, the Michelangelo, the artist, and that the dad from her current lifetime was his then long-term assistant, that Michelangelo was gay, had many, many different lovers, but that her current life dad was then his long-term assistant. So I was like, okay, great, this is amazing. My client said she heard a name of this assistant. So she had trouble sounding it out because it was Italian, and I had her spell it letter for letter. So she spelled me a word that was spelled P-I-E-T-R, sounding like prietor, which didn't sound like anything to me, but I spell it out on a piece of paper, and we wrap up the session. We say this was really cool and interesting, and so she went home. As soon as she left, I went to Google and typed in the information, and poof, this little paragraph pops up where it describes that Michelangelo did have a long-term assistant whose name was Pietro Urbino. So super close. I think she only had like 2 letters mixed up. Another case that is still current that I'm working on is a client who he's done several sessions and he seems to be going back to a lifetime where he was Rock Hudson. We're not quite sure yet because there's still details to be researched and found out about, but a lot of the lifetimes or the scenes that he's accessed, like award shows, being gay and not being able to express it, the kind of people that were around him and the restaurants that he would go to here in Los Angeles that are no longer here, but what was the one that he mentioned? Like Romanovs, I think it is. It used to be on Beverly Hills Boulevard, or Beverly Boulevard. I'm not sure if that's the name, but so there was details regarding houses where he lived and friends that he had, and then his agent and names of these people that match what looks like Rock Hudson's lifetime. When we first found out about it was when he was in his death scene at home, dying, and he described where he was and then his pajamas, and then he could read the initials on the pajamas, and it was crap. I don't know. I don't remember them, but initials that didn't sound like Rock Hudson's initials. There were three of them. And so this was after the first session. And so my client went home and then researched Rock Hudson's life and found out that his birth name was different. It was three names, first, middle name, and then last name. And those matched the initials that were on his pajama. Also, when my client found out about Doris Day's death, this happened a couple of years ago, he had this out of control emotional reaction in this current lifetime, and not being a fan of Doris Day or never really knowing about her, but he had this super emotional reaction to her death. And we found out that they were good friends, that Rock Hudson and Doris Day were good friends in this different lifetime. So makes you think. Another case that I've worked on that was verifiable was a woman who went into a lifetime as an astronaut working for the US government, going on covert missions into space. She knew her name in that lifetime. She knew that her name was Joe Walker. She described the base where she was stationed, described what it looked like, that he was a pilot flying spaceships or like planes that were a hybrid between like jets and spacecraft, describe what they look like, the markings on the side of them, and the missions that she would go on into space. And I had her see what it was like when she would go and debrief. She would go into this base that was housed in a mountain. It was this big silo type of place with like different floors leading into it. One of these rooms was the debrief room. She said that, well, he at that lifetime didn't really like the people that he worked for. They weren't open with the motives of sending him into space, felt like they were getting data off of him that he wasn't privy to. So but the room where the debriefing happened had like plaques on the wall with the names of the presidents, and the current president that in that lifetime was John F. Kennedy. So that gives you a place in time and history. So she knew her name, described the whole lifetime, had a near-death experience when in an air show, the plane had an accident, had a near-death experience and then survived it, and then finally died later on. And I think he mentioned that he was poisoned because he knew too much. So my client, we wrapped up the session. She went home and her husband actually Googled this information and boop, this little, well, not little, but this Wikipedia page comes up with pictures of the spacecraft or aircraft that she flew, and everything was matching. The name was matching. The whole life was narrated on this Wikipedia page. So amazing stuff. And then the biggest case that I've been working on has been made into a book, and the book is called The Boy Who Knew Too Much. It was written by Kathy Bird, my client, who is now my friend. She describes her journey with her son, who started telling her at 2 years of age that he used to be a tall German baseball player, that she would be taking him around town on errands, and that the little boy would comment on, when he would be in an elevator or they would be in a hotel, and he would say stuff like, oh, when I was the tall German baseball player, the hotels would look like this, or we would travel in buses or trains, not in airplanes. So he knew things about a different time. Also, when she took him to a baseball stadium, I think it was the Dodger Stadium, there was this giant poster of Babe Ruth on the wall. And the boy had like a total freak out. He said, that is a bad guy. We had a big fight. We had a big fallout. And so to the point where he got so upset that his mom needed to take him away from the area because the boy was just so upset. So she was from a Christian background, had no knowledge of the concept of reincarnation, but quickly realized that there was more going on with the boy than just imagination. So she tried out different things, but finally she stepped into my office, made an appointment to figure out what this past life regression stuff, this reincarnation stuff is. And so I tell her what I tell all my clients, that, when we do a session, it's up to your higher self. What is brought forward as the most appropriate information for you to access? It's not just past life tourism doing a session. This is first and foremost a healing experience. So your soul, your higher self, we call it the subconscious mind, will give you the most appropriate experiences. And for a lot of people, they're very mundane experiences, but also people go into alien lifetimes, galactic lifetimes, lifetimes of interdimensional beings, energy beings, creator beings. It's all possible. So with all these lots of possibilities in mind, it was quite remarkable that Kathy did go into her lifetime of Christina Gehrig, Lou Gehrig's mom. Her son had told her that she used to be his mom in that lifetime, but that he liked her now much better because of her personality. It was different. It was more upbeat, more funny. She's a Gemini like I am, so of course I think all Geminis are fun. So, and this happens quite a bit, by the way, that the people that you're in a lifetime with right now, you've been with before or been with in different lifetimes. We travel in soul groups and we try out different relationships together. So it is not common that we come back in the same configuration. So in this case, Kathy coming back with her son the way they were before. She was the mom, he was the son, and now again. Most of the time, people just switch around. Like your child in your current lifetime might have been a good friend in another lifetime, or a lover, or, it might have been a teacher-student kind of relationship. You try out different things. So she explores this lifetime as Christina Gehrig, Lou Gehrig's mom. We find her at the dinner table, speaks some German, knows all the names of her kids, and describes the first day when her son plays for the Yankees. She describes the stadium, she describes the scoreboard, how it's not electric, but it needs to be changed manually. And this is kind of my job as a regressionist. Like when some people start telling me about their different lifetimes, I want to get as many trivial details as I can to really anchor that person in that time, but also to get information to verify, to give it a place in recorded history, because it's just super cool whenever you can do that. So she described, she was at the stadium, super excited as his mom, watching him play for the first time. So I asked her about, like, you're in the stadium, you're watching the game, are you having any snacks? She goes, yes, we have these hot nuts, she goes. And I didn't know what that meant. I thought they must have been like burnt peanuts, but she says, no, they're like warm chestnuts. And Kathy had never even seen chestnuts in her current lifetime. She didn't know what they look like. And then I asked her, what were you drinking anything? And she goes, yes, we're having a cola. Like, who says that? Which American-born person refers to a Coke as cola? That was very much from a different time and maybe from a different cultural background, because Christina Gehrig was born in Germany. So she accesses this lifetime in a very detailed way. She gets lots of little details that she couldn't have known about little tchotchkes that she was given, awards like medals that her son Lou Gehrig was given, I think in Japan. She described this very intricate sort of medallion or medal that he was given in great detail. And she came back 2 more times to do more sessions, and we would go back into the same lifetime. And this is quite remarkable. Like, I've done over 1,000, 1,200 sessions, and most of the time people just stay in one lifetime or even leapfrog through different lifetimes in one session. She came back twice more, would go back into the same lifetime, more and more details come up. I ask her higher self, okay, why are we doing this? Why do we have to go back to the same lifetime? Why is it so important? It tells me that she is to mine this lifetime for little details that you can go and fact check with still living descendants and relatives of the Gehrig family in order to verify the information, to add more credibility to the concept of reincarnation and past life regression, and then write a book about it. So it would be accessible to people that normally would not be into this kind of information. And it would be more accessible because it dealt with the subject of baseball, but also it would have this level of facts that were checked or verifiability. She knew things in her session that she couldn't have known about before. Kathy is a great researcher, and so she researched all this information. Everything matched. She went to the East Coast and was able to verify the information that she had gotten from her regression sessions, and everything matched. So this was amazing. She entered the Hay House Writing Contest and won the publishing prize, or no, what is it called? She won the contest, and they published her book. So it's now a book, and it's in development, being made into a movie. So hopefully it comes out soon so we can all enjoy this amazing story. So I just wanted to share these experiences because sometimes people think, is it real? Am I just making it up? Even people that are in sessions, sometimes they come out of it and they say, oh, did I really have an experience, or did I just make it up? Actually, last week there was a woman who came out of it herself, and she was wondering, did I make up my experience? At one point, she described a wedding ceremony as a sailor from Spain who ended up marrying a woman from somewhere Polynesian. It sounded like it, because I had to describe details of this wedding, and she experienced that they both exchanged these leis, these flower necklaces, and they were on their knees. There was an officiant of some sort. They wore white clothes with like fringes, she described. And the ceremony was about them leaning in and touching foreheads. And she said, something passed between us, something exchanged. I didn't know what it was. So she went home. She got out of her session thinking, like, did I make all this stuff up? Like, is it really real? And so both of us Googled it, and we found out that this is a traditional way of like a wedding ceremony in Hawaii, that you do this, that you touch foreheads and then you inhale at the same time, as if like your spirits mingling or exchanging, or mixing up, sort of. So just so for you to know that it seems like these past life experiences that we access in our state of trance are really real. So even the galactic ones, the alien ones, the kind of the oracle ones, or creator being ones. So go listen to some more galactic experiences. A lot of the information that's coming in right now through the different practitioners, through the clients of different practitioners and people that share this online, is very informative and educational about who we are as human beings on the planet and what's happening on the planet right now. And what I can tell you is that we're going through a spiritual awakening, that the awakening that we're going through right now is about leaving the mind-based existence, from thinking about ourselves and about life from within labels or categories or preconceived ideas that we've been conditioned to take on by being raised in this world, and that we're now dropping into our hearts, that we're first and foremost learning to love ourselves as unique expressions of source. And when we do that, when we are in relationship with all aspects of self, when we learn to have compassion for self, in turn, we will have compassion for everybody else around us and the world around us, because we will realize that just as we are a unique expression of God, everything else is as well. So we will not want to harm ourselves, and also not want to harm animals, the environment, or other people. Sounds great, right? I mean, right now what we're going through is a bit of a bumpy ride. A little bit. Right now I'm speaking from 2020. You probably remember, or we're still in it. If you're still in it right now, then this is quite a bumpy ride. Lots of stuff's happening in this year, but that all this stuff's happening for us to take our focus off our external reality and to bring it back to us, and to start loving ourselves and loving others and loving the environment, loving animals, and as a catalyst to do this. So hopefully we'll get this learning, this lesson, sooner than later, because it is challenging right now. So I wish you the best through this year. Hopefully you'll you'll watch this video, from a later time, and you think, oh yeah, 2020, that was quite crazy, but thank God we got through it, and look how wonderful life is right now. Hopefully. So much love from me to your journey. This is Jeroen de Wit reporting from QHHT land. For more information, go to my website, jeroenqhht.com, or my Instagram page, Jeroen is Love.